I was any kind of man, I'd have shown that Sam what's what.
In my experience, if you let a man break your nose, I gotta say, if that were me in your position, I would have killed that man.
Well, heck. Heck, you're so sure about it, maybe you should just kill him for me.
Martin Freeman and Billy Bob Thornton in Fargo. When he came to Front Row, I suggested to Martin Freeman that this Fargo exists in a parallel world to the big screen version.
None of us really would have been interested in being in a sort of either a good or bad cover version of a very beloved film. You know, I mean, like, the film, of course, is brilliant. It's like a modern classic, but that's not what got me involved. You know, what got me involved was a very strong pilot script. The character that I play, Lester Nygaard, is intriguing. You know, pretty much over the 10 episodes, I get to play the full gamut of human experience, you know.
And it's very hard to talk about even the first episode without giving too much away. And there's a key moment, and I won't spoil it for anybody, but suffice to say that Lester is the man who is put upon and at one point cracks.
Yeah, he does. We find Lester at a point, you know, thus far in his life, he's someone who life has... You know, he's the kind of man who, if you apologise. He's in a loveless, henpecked marriage. He's in a pretty boring job that he's very bad at. And then by a series of turns, he ends up meeting Billy Bob Thornton's character, who unconsciously opens up a new way of looking at life for Lester.
This is Lorne Malvo.
Lorne Malvo.
I mean, a really, really evil character, isn't he?
He is. He's, I mean, totally... Well, I was going to say totally amoral, but actually doesn't like bullies.
Because he does have a moral compass, Lorne, but his moral compass is spinning in a totally different moral universe.
Yeah, totally, yeah. It's only his own compass. yeah. It's not true north. It's his own north.
We would have thought some time ago that the big job would be the film, but now actually when you sign up to a drama like this, it is a big commitment, not least because you have to go to Calgary in Canada to film it and spend, 5 or 6 months away
nearly 5,
from home and family.
Yes.
So personally, that's quite a commitment, isn't it?
I mean, I always have to believe in something to do it, especially if it's going to take me away from my family. You know, we're having our bathrooms done. Not that I wanted to be there for every part of that.
You had tiles to choose.
I've got tiles to choose, and I've got, you know, taps to choose. So it needs to be something good to take me away from that. And it has to stand alone, and it really does. I'm hoping that after 5 minutes of watching our first episode, people stop thinking about the Coen brothers in that way. You know?
A location filming can take you to some amazing places, and you spent a lot of time in New Zealand, but going to Calgary in Canada, where it is normally minus 10, minus 15 degrees. That's quite a challenge, isn't it?
That's the hors d'oeuvres, is minus 10, minus 50. Yeah, I mean, we got to minus 40, and that's properly dangerous. If you're not wearing the right gear, or if your bare hand touches some metal, you'll get stuck on. You know, there are warnings about that stuff.
But I mean, is it physically shocking when you...
Yes. Yeah, I remember my first scene outside, you know, reasonable amount of dialogue, not loads, but I couldn't believe my lips were having to move and speak dialogue in this weather. By the time it gets to minus 30, then you really know, okay, this is properly cold now. You know, you could die if you took your shoes off for 2 minutes, you know.
The other thing you have to adapt to in this piece is the accent, the Minnesotan accent. Now, in the film version, I mean, the accent itself was almost a character in the film, the Frances McDormand character, with her catchphrase, her betcha. You betcha, you betcha. How do you go about channeling that Minnesota? Because it is a very specific accent, isn't it?
It is,
the Minnesota nice, as they call it.
Yes, that's that kind of cultural thing of not saying what you really feel necessarily, and being quite presentational. It makes us look like Italians. You know, the British, who are famously quite reined in, the Minnesota stereotype anyway is even a lot more reined in than that.
And that comes from Nordic settlers.
It does, it does. It's Scandinavian influence of that, and that's where those long vowels come from, and that's where the sound of that accent comes. And so I work very hard at it, and not thinking, I've got this now, so I'll have lunch as Martin.
You stayed in character?
Oh, not in character, but in accent.
I've always thought you're a very nuanced actor. I mean, your performances actually suggest a lot in facial expressions, but are you trying out different variations of delivery? Right.
I'm trying out every take is different for me,
And do you know instinctively that's the one and I'll stay with that? Or are you dependent on a director to say, actually, Martin, you've got it now?
Bit of both, actually. A bit of both. I think what stops you a lot of the time as an actor is fear. I want to stand up now and do this, but I shouldn't really, because we've not blocked it like that. Well, what if you do? No one's going to die. All that might happen at worst is that you look a bit of a tit. And frankly, we're actors. Our whole job is to be a bit of a tit at some point. You know, otherwise we wouldn't be wearing makeup and wearing someone else's clothes. I mean, I'm not saying that, you know, I've got no fear about anything. Of course I have. first night of a play, I'm as terrified as anyone else alive.
And Lester is a man who takes control of his own destiny, but against all expectations. And you said a moment ago there about first night of a play, you will be terrified, which leads us to one of the next projects, which is taking on Richard III, a man who has control of his destiny to an extent right from the outset. So,
yes, he's got it kind of mapped out. Yeah,
and he has been reinterpreted so many times.
Yeah.
I mean, what are you going to bring to Richard? How much do you know about what Richard will come to your stage?
I'm not being coy. I genuinely don't know. I don't know. That's to be decided, really. Jamie Lloyd and myself are yet to properly have it out, all that stuff.
So Jamie Lloyd hasn't said, right, I'm going to rehabilitate Richard III this time, and you're the man to do it.
He might. Well, I mean, he obviously thinks I'm the man to do this production now, his production now, but no, he's not been specific, and I've not been specific about, I think his disability should be this or that, or his voice should be this. I mean, apart from learning lines, which you can do on your own, so much of what you do as an actor is only reactive to what other people do. You know, because you can do it in your mirror all you like in your bathroom. You could be winning Oscars all over the place in your head. I'm going to do it like this. It's irrelevant. It's like, I can talk a really good game of football. You know, you wouldn't want me to play for your team.
And very often in your performances, there is a quietness and there's a sense of pace. But what struck me watching Jamie Lloyd directing James McAvoy in Macbeth, and also he did The Hot House with Simon Russell Beale, the Pinter play. Both of those, the way he directed them seemed to be at a frenetic pace.
Right, yeah.
I mean, it was the fastest Pinter I'd ever seen.
Right, yeah.
And it was the bloodiest and loudest Macbeth. So I wonder whether there's going to be something of that comes in. I mean,
I hope
you
so.
really don't know.
I think so. No, I really don't know. He just recently sent me his cut of the play, because all Shakespeare is cut these days, obviously. I think he wants a really exciting night at the theatre. He doesn't want a sort of laborious professorial penance.
So is it just another role, another writer, another script, or does it have a different kind of weight in the back of your mind? Is it sort of bearing down slightly because it is Shakespeare?
Partly, yeah. I mean, however much I say, well, it's just a play, you know, because it is, it's a play.
And
it's
his 450th birthday year as well.
Yes, exactly. For another thing to make me nervous. But you inevitably do end up thinking, I've got to be good, you know, of course. But then I think if I do a radio play, I've got to be good. You know, I always want to be good. Yeah. But at the end, he's a writer who wrote some excellent plays, and we are still trying to get to grips with them now. And when they work, they're fantastic, and when they don't work, they're boring. You know, that's the truth of it. We've all been bored by a production of Shakespeare or 12 in our time.
Yeah.
You know?
And Benedict Cumberbatch is also going to be Richard III on screen as part of the Hollow Crown series. So that's a coincidence then, is it? It's not some kind of
pact. It really is. No, it's not a pact. No, we now have to play all the same parts.
Yeah. Will you talk about it? Is that, I mean, because, I mean, you know, you look at, you Google it, Richard III, and it's, you know, the two Richard rivals already. I mean, would there be a sense of rivalry, or will you be comparing notes at all, or have you got to just...
No, I don't think we'll be comparing notes at all, no. I mean, we don't compare notes about anything anyway, so, no. I mean, if it was me and, you know, somebody else doing Richard III, then that wouldn't be happening. It's just we happen to be in a pretty big show together. You know?
And still, there is going to be another one, is it?
I hope
Sherlock
so.
4.
Yeah, I mean, I'm up for it. I just don't know when it's going to happen.
Really?
No idea. Really, no. I have no idea when it's going to happen.
Martin Freeman. Fargo is on Channel 4 on Sunday at 9 o'clock, and his Richard III is at the Trafalgar Studios in London from July. Thanks to the chilly setting and the dark tone of Fargo, it will probably appeal to fans of the recent wave of so-called Scandi noir on screen. Coincidentally, there's a new film this week that could be something of an antidote for those who associate Swedish drama only with darkness and depression. We Are the Best by Lucas Moodysson is a coming-of-age comedy about 3 young Swedish girls who form a punk band in 1982. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hatar sånt, hatar sånt, hatar, hatar, hatar sånt, hatar, hatar sånt, göra The song Hate the Sport, or Heart der Sport, is kicked into life eventually by the 3 misfit girls, Clara, Bobo and Hedwig, who are played by a trio of Swedish newcomers in Lucas Moodysson's film We Are the Best. To review it, I'm joined by the film critic Larushka Ivanzadeh. Larushka, we heard from that clip there, they are terrible and they don't get much better, but that's not the point.
Well, in fact, that's very much in the spirit of punk, isn't it? I mean, the Sex Pistols and the Ramones, neither of them could play when they started out. I mean, it's such a sweet and charming film. These teenagers definitely aren't the kind of snarling, Sid Vicious, gobbing type